All right, so today, we're diving into something kind of wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine this. You're just, walking through your city, right? And you see like a busted streetlight.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just grumbling about it or maybe like tweeting angrily into the void,
Right.
you just pull out your phone. There's an app, you report it, and then you can track the city's progress, like in real time.
Wow.
No more calling, three different departments, hoping you get the right person.
Yeah. Trying to figure out who to even call in the first place.
Exactly. And that's kind of a little glimpse of what the Department of Technology is kind of envisioning with this whole Mayor City project.
Ambitious.
It really is.
Yeah, they're really talking about like a complete tech makeover for local governments.
Yeah. It's like they looked at all those like really like clunky government websites we've all struggled with.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just like, scrap it. We're starting over.
Basically, yeah. And the thing is, they're not even thinking small. They want to see this everywhere, like city, county, state, even federal level.
Yeah. I was going to say, they're not messing around with this. Like,
Right.
this is a whole rethinking of how we even interact with like government at all.
It's like their big idea is actually creating a whole new department of technology.
Really?
Yeah, at every level. And it would be led by like an elected director of technology.
What?
So you'd be voting for somebody who's like in charge of all the tech stuff.
Huh.
It's definitely ambitious. I mean, you have to kind of admire the vision, right? Like if we're going to actually use technology to like really change how the government works, shouldn't we have people who actually know about technology running these things?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it raises the question, though, like, would having someone who's, like, specifically elected for their tech expertise, would that actually lead to more innovation? Or would it just get, like,
Bogged down in bureaucracy.
exactly, like, are we voting for the person who makes the coolest app? Or are we voting for the person who understands, like, data security for an entire city?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because it's easy to focus on like, oh, cool, new app, new website.
Right.
But the real like heart of this is like, how do you govern this stuff?
Right.
Like, how do you make sure these departments are actually effective and, working like they should, and not just like wasting taxpayer money?
And serving the people, right?
Exactly. And don't forget this Mayor City thing, it's still in beta testing.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we're getting this sneak peek into like their laboratory where they're like cooking up the future of local government.
It's true, and they've even got Mayortown in the works, right?
Yeah, that's like the version for smaller cities and towns.
It's interesting they're thinking about how to apply this on, like, different scale.
Yeah, it's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense, because not every place is going to have the same needs.
Right, and not every place is, like, a tech hub,
Exactly, like what works in Silicon Valley might not work in, rural America.
Exactly, and this isn't, like, completely out there,
No, it's not.
Like, I mean, look at Estonia.
Right, they've been doing this for years.
They've got online voting, digital IDs. It's like everything with their government is online.
Pretty much, and it seems to be working for them.
So the ID itself isn't, like, brand new.
No.
But doing it on the scale the Department of Technology is talking about,
Right.
that's a whole other thing.
It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, but let's, like, bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
Like, what does this mean for, like, the average person like you listening right now?
Right.
The Mayor City website paints a pretty nice picture.
Yeah, they're promising like a one-stop shop for all your government needs.
Really?
Yeah, like need to renew your driver's license, got to pay a parking ticket, want to register to vote.
Oh, wow.
All in one place, streamlined, easy to use.
No more like digging through those websites that look like they were made in the 90s.
Exactly. No more like spending hours on hold trying to find the right department.
Oh my gosh, the worst.
The worst, right? And remember that busted streetlight we were talking about?
Yeah.
You can report it easily, and then you can actually track its progress.
Wow, so you can actually see that they're doing something about it?
Exactly. Transparency in action. Right.
I love it.
And it's not just about, they also want to give people real-time updates on like city projects and how their tax dollars are being used.
So you can actually see where your money's going.
Imagine being able to just log in and see exactly how that bond measure you voted for is being spent.
Wow.
With like charts and graphs and everything.
It would be amazing.
Right.
It all sounds really great in theory, but like,
yeah,
how are they going to actually pull this off?
Right.
And will it actually live up to the hype?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
So one thing that really struck me looking at all this Mayor City stuff is how much they're talking about actually like changing how the government works.
Yeah, it's not just like slapping an app on top of everything.
Right. It's like really restructuring things that are like this whole thing about having a separate Department of Technology at like every level of government.
It's a huge change.
It's huge. And they're talking about everything from like cybersecurity to like digital literacy programs,
Yeah,
even like using blockchain for record keeping.
it's a lot.
It's a lot to think about. I mean, what are like the pluses and minuses of putting like all that tech power in one place?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, it could really streamline things. Like
Right.
right now, you have all these different agencies using different systems that might not even work
Or
together.
like different versions of the same software.
Exactly. And this could really help with that.
It's like finally getting everyone in your family to use the same like cloud storage.
Right, instead of like a million different logins for everything.
Yeah, exactly. But then what about the downsides?
Well, the big one is like bureaucracy, right?
Right.
Like you create this new department, it gets bigger and bigger, and then it's like this big, slow moving thing.
Right. It's like the opposite of agile.
Exactly. And then there's the question of money, you
Right.
know?
How are they going to pay for all this?
Right. This is going to be expensive, especially at the beginning. And they're saying it'll save money in the long run, but like,
Who knows, right?
right. Right. Is that actually going to happen?
And how does this affect all the other stuff the government's doing?
Yeah, good point.
Like, are they going to take money away from other things to do this?
Will they just like magically be more efficient?
Right.
And like, who's going to teach all these government employees how to use all this new tech?
That's true.
Like, a lot of them are used to doing things a certain way.
Right. Filling out paper form.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be a lot of training involved, not just for regular people, but for the people who work for the government too.
Okay, so that's the big picture stuff.
Yeah.
But what about like on the ground? What would this actually look like?
Yeah.
So they talk about this report an issue thing on the website
Yeah.
where you can report like potholes, graffiti, even like noise complaints all in one place.
That would be nice.
Right. And then there's the get involved section.
Right. They're trying to get people more engaged.
Yeah, they're talking about online forums and surveys and even like interactive budget tools
Wow.
where you can like give input on how the city spends money.
That's ambitious.
It's like they're trying to gamify civic engagement.
I like it.
But will it actually work?
That's the question.
I mean, we've all seen those like contact your representative things on government websites, and it's like, is anyone even reading those?
Right. It can feel like you're shouting into the void.
Exactly. So how is this going to be different?
Well, they're talking a big game about transparency and collaboration.
Right.
But like you said, will it actually translate into real change?
Or is it just a new coat of paint on the same old system?
Right.
Because, I mean, they can have the best website in the world, but if the actual process is still like clunky and bureaucratic,
It's not going to make a difference.
it's not going to matter.
And that's where things get really interesting
Yeah.
because, like, for Mayor City to really work, it requires like a fundamental shift in how the government operates.
It almost seems like a culture change.
Yeah. Exactly, like a culture of transparency and collaboration and like actually being responsive to people.
And that's not something you can just like code into existence.
Right. It's going to take a lot more than that.
It's like they're not just trying to build better websites and apps, they're trying to build a better government.
Which is a much taller order.
That's quite a challenge.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But let's say they somehow manage to pull it off.
Right.
Like, what would success actually look like?
That is a great question. Like, how do we even measure if this is working? So we're kind of imagining this future where, like, you're not just ranting about potholes on Twitter.
Yeah.
You're actually, like, part of the solution.
Right.
But how do we even know if it's working? Like, what does Mayor City actually look like if it's successful?
Well, for me, it comes down to like three main things.
Okay.
Like, first, do people's lives actually get better? Like, are things actually improving?
Like, are the potholes getting fixed faster?
Exactly.
Oh.
Or like, can I pay my property taxes online without wanting to pull my hair out?
Right? Or, like, can I get a permit for a block party without having to, like, go down to City Hall and fill out a million forms?
Yeah, like those everyday interactions with the government, do they actually get easier?
Right. It's like less hassle, more living your life.
Exactly.
So it's about efficiency and convenience, but it's also about, like, feeling like the government is working for you,
Right.
not the other way around.
Oh,
Okay, so that's improvements. What about transparency?
So transparency is huge, especially with all this tech stuff.
Right, because they're using all our data.
Exactly. So we need to be able to see what they're doing with it.
Like, how are they making decisions? Are they using our data responsibly? What are they doing with our tax dollars?
And not just like burying it in some report that nobody reads.
Right.
It needs to be like easy to understand.
Like, what if you had like a dashboard on your phone
Yeah,
where you could see like everything the city's working on?
exactly. Like, how much is that new park costing? Where's the money coming from? When's it going to be finished?
Right, and you could like look up your street and see like, oh, they're doing road repairs next week.
Exactly. All of that should be right there at your fingertips.
That would be amazing. And it's not just about, like, holding the government accountable.
Right.
It's also about, like, building trust.
Exactly. If people feel like they know what's going on, they're more likely to trust the government.
Okay, so we've got better services, more transparency. What was that third thing?
Equity.
Equity.
Oh,
Right, because, like, not everyone has the same access to technology.
exactly. And if we're not careful, this whole mayor city thing could actually make things worse for some people.
Right, like what if you don't have a smartphone or you can't afford internet?
Or if English isn't your first language.
Right, all these things need to be considered.
Absolutely. We have to make sure this technology is accessible to everyone.
So it's not just about making government more tech savvy,
Right.
it's about making it more equitable.
Exactly. And that's going to require like constant effort.
Right, like this isn't just a one and done kind of thing.
No, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah. And it's not just up to the government either.
Right.
We all have a role to play in making sure this technology is used for good.
Absolutely.
So what's the takeaway here for everyone listening?
I think it's this. Pay attention, stay informed, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, like don't just let this tech future happen to you.
Exactly. Make your voice heard, get involved, and help shape the future you want to see.
Because at the end of the day, technology is just a tool.
Right.
It's up to us to decide how we use it.
And what kind of future we want to build with it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to check out the show notes for links and resources so you can learn more about Mayor City and all the other exciting, maybe a little scary stuff we talked about today.